First, a big victory for gay marriage as the Supreme Court strikes down the Defense of Marriage Act. The crowd of supporters outside the Supreme Court erupted as that decision was handed down. Welcome to Point 6 News at noon. I'm Jenny Hansen. Happening right now, Basic Rights Oregon is about to hold a news conference on the Supreme Court's ruling against the Defense of Marriage Act. The organization that supports marriage equality in Oregon is leading the effort to get an initiative legalizing same-sex marriage on the November 2014 ballot. Now, in addition to the DOMA ruling, the Supreme Court struck down California's Proposition 8, a voter-approved ban on same-sex marriage. It's been making headlines all morning long. Danielle Nottingham is live at the U.S. Supreme Court with more on these new rulings. Danielle?
The court did not make a ruling on whether marriage is a constitutional right for all couples, regardless of sexual orientation, but the justices did open the door for some major changes in the future. Supporters of same-sex marriage cheered after hearing today's Supreme Court ruling, striking down the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act. They also applauded a ruling that clears the way for same-sex marriages to resume in California. The justices voted 5-4 that a key part of the federal law known as DOMA, which denied benefits to same-sex couples, is unconstitutional. 83-year-old Edie Windsor went to the Supreme Court in March to challenge DOMA after she was forced to pay taxes on the estate of her partner of more than 40 years. She celebrated the ruling today.
I cried, okay, but I'm thrilled, obviously.
On his way to Africa, President Obama said the Supreme Court has righted a wrong and our country is better off for it. House Speaker John Boehner said he's disappointed with the ruling and that he hopes states will define marriage as a union between a man and a woman. Supporters of same-sex marriage were here at the Supreme Court as early as last night, waiting for today's historic rulings.
We thank the justices for letting us get married in California, but that's not enough. It's got to go nationwide, and we can't wait for that day.
We're disappointed about the Supreme Court's decision on standing, but we are happy that Proposition 8 does remain the law of the state of California.
In the California case, the justices ruled that supporters of Proposition 8 did not have the right to appeal lower court rulings which had struck down the ban on same-sex marriages. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel says the Pentagon will get to work right away on making sure the same benefits are available to all military spouses. Live at the Supreme Court, Danielle Nottingham, now back to you.
Thank you, Danielle. Well, after the court's decision, reaction poured in from many of the Northwest's elected leaders, all of them supporting the Supreme Court's decision. Chad Carter has more.
With that, the Supreme Court ruled the federal government couldn't discriminate against legally same-sex married couples within a state that already allows it. Almost immediately, reaction started pouring in from supporters and Oregon elected officials. Senator Jeff Merkley posted this video to YouTube from just outside the Supreme Court.
So let's make this year not only the year in which the federal government recognizes all marriages, but the year in which we ban discrimination for all LGBT Americans.
His counterpart, Ron Wyden, linked to this video from 1996 when he argued against the Defense of Marriage Act, one of 14 to do so.
Is the legislation constitutional? Where in the Constitution does it say equal rights for all except those that the majority disagrees with?
While the decision doesn't immediately affect same-sex couples in Oregon, where the state doesn't allow same-sex marriage, Governor John Kitzhaber released this statement saying, quote, Oregon has not yet lived up to the ideal of equal rights for all. When we talk about freedom to marry, we're talking about the basic equality we demand for every person.
And by the laws of the state of Washington, I now pronounce that you are husbands.
In Washington state, where same-sex marriage is legal, Governor Jay Inslee released this statement. Quote, Washington state is a leader in marriage equality, and today's ruling means the benefits and recognition of marriage offered to couples here in our state will be offered equally across our nation. Chad Carter, Point 6 News.
And stay with KOIN 6 News for the latest on these Supreme Court rulings. Ken Boddy is at the Basic Rights Oregon News Conference right now. He will be digging deeper into this story all day and have a live report on KOIN 6 News starting at 4 o'clock.